Hello and welcome to Gupshop. We're your hosts. I'm Alex,
And I'm Zuhair.
and in this podcast, we talk about my journey as a former Catholic into marrying a Muslim man. We discuss themes such as relationships, family, and culture, as we talk about the joys and challenges of being in a mixed race relationship. In our last episode, we spoke about what we've been up to over the last 6 months and also our future plans. And in this episode, we're going to tell you about our planning and the lead up to our wedding in the Hunter Valley, which happened about a week ago. And we'll fill you in on what went down.
Yeah, it was a very stressful last 2 weeks. The whole month was stressful, but especially the last week or last 2 weeks or so was really stressful.
We basically planned it in a month or maybe 2 months, 1 to 2 months.
Definitely wasn't 2 months. We decided to do it somewhere at the beginning of October, so just over a month. But anyway, we thought we were making progress for like the beginning of October, and then as we got closer and closer to the date, we were rushing to do things, and especially the last week, it came down to the last day where we were still doing things. So it was very chaotic and extremely stressful. We didn't get much sleep. There was a lot to do. It just felt like a never-ending list of things to do, which we'll get into. But yeah, so like the last 2 and now 3 weeks, we were planning the wedding. We had the wedding. We had a little trip after the wedding, which was nice, and we just came back at the beginning of this week. So yeah, what was the most stressful part for you during the I would say the last 2 weeks? Like that was really when we really got full on. But what was like the most stressful part for you?
I would say like on the day when we were just behind schedule and we were still trying to set things up.
No, I mean before that, like in the lead up to before we got there.
It was all pretty stressful, like in the days leading up to it.
Yeah, well, basically the last week, we were kind of worried about the weather, and then we waited till the last few days to see if it would change, and it really didn't. Like it was still looking.
It looked really bad.
It was still looking pretty bad. And then we decided last minute that okay, well, it looked like it was going to rain all of the days that we were there. So we decided we were going to get umbrellas, and we ended up buying like 20 altogether umbrellas. We ended up
had to drive like
it's a long drive. Well, you didn't go. I had to go.
I didn't go, but it was a long drive, right?
Yeah, and then because this whole event was like very DIY. We didn't choose I think we spoke about it last week, but we didn't choose a wedding venue. We chose a private accommodation who allowed us to use their grounds to have our wedding, and so everything had to be done by us down to the last spoon that people were eating with. We had to organize everything, and that inevitably, I think we definitely underestimated the amount of work that was required. So that's why the last week we were rushing around, buying mugs and buying plates and dessert spoons and the umbrellas in case it rains, in the basket for the umbrella, vases for flower arrangements, little trays to put desserts in, and we also added more stress by trying to provide food in between the ceremony and the reception, and we had to go Coles and like buy all this stuff for like refreshments, and as well as like the platter plates and all the cutlery and everything. We just had to do everything, and it was just so much. Like there was so much stuff that we had to pack into our car, and there was no way it was all going to fit. So like
we had a small car.
Yeah, well, actually, we have a small car, but the amount of stuff that can fit is actually a lot more than the average car can fit. Like it's a Prius,
it's a hatchback,
if you know what that is. But it can fit a lot. But the amount of stuff that we had, especially because we had some bigger boxes, like we had lantern stands that we bought, and boxes of plates and all the stuff that we ended up boxing up, and big bags, like IKEA bags that we filled up So there's a lot of stuff. And then we knew that not all of this was going to fit into our car. So we tried to fit as much as we can, and our families took the rest. And then I think it was the day before, right, when we went to pick up the cake table, and that ended up being a complete disaster.
Mm-hmm. That was the day before we left, and then that didn't fit into our car.
It was it was a monster.
We
that
tried
table.
so hard. It
was
nearly
like-
fit.
It was way
It
too.
nearly fit through the back door.
Well, I'm glad it didn't, because I really didn't want to take it, because even if it did fit, it would have taken up like 80% of the car.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have been able to take all of our stuff.
But we ended up swapping it for another cake table, which was like a thinner model of the same thing, but it did fit in our car, but it was still massive. Like
was
the
still
box was still
huge.
really big.
It was just that the dimensions of it fit our car, but it was still taking up the whole car, which your parents ended up taking.
Yeah, my parents took it in their car, and then we didn't even end up using it.
Yeah, well, so fast forward, we got everything into the car. We fit everything, what we couldn't fit into our parents' car and our family's cars. We left some stuff behind, like that stupid umbrella, which was actually a laundry hamper, but we bought it to put umbrellas in.
Mhm.
We left that behind because there was no way it was going to fit. We also had a giant esky, actually, I forgot to mention. That was massive, and it would have taken up like half our car if we took it. Anyway, we fit everything in. We left on the morning of Friday, the 5th of November. We drove up to the Hunter. We initially, our main goal for that day was have the marquee people set at the marquee, and then the stuff that we had in the arbor, the chairs, all the furniture, they were also delivering that, which was a separate vendor.
Mhm.
So we had to go early, and then they dropped all that stuff off. They set up the marquee, and then immediately we had the power issue with the marquee. We had all these chandeliers up in the marquee, and they never told us that they would need power, like a power socket to connect those two. And this was like out in the grounds of an estate, which was, I think, at least 100 meters away from the property. So it was just out in the open, and we had no idea that they would need power. Luckily, we were able to organize that with the owner, and they brought in a massive, a very
Extension
long
cable.
extension cord. Yeah. And then it got resolved, but that was stressful because initially we thought that there was no power, and then we were going to have to hire a generator or something.
Mhm.
But that got resolved, and it looked really nice. Like the marquee, they set up the tables for us, which, down to the little things that we had to do. The tables didn't line up properly because the ground was not completely even.
Oh, yeah.
And then we were like,
We had to like wedge stuff underneath some of the legs so they would be stable and even. So there wouldn't be like a massive gap between the two tables.
Well, we were like walking around trying to find something to wedge underneath, like rocks and
Yeah,
sticks and stuff,
Like a
and
brick or something.
it was just ridiculous. Because the tables just didn't match up, and that took us a while. We had to do all that, and we had the clear walls up around it because we thought it might rain.
Yeah, it did rain that day.
It rained that day, not much actually. It
On and
only
off.
rained for like maybe a couple of hours at most.
Yeah.
And then the next day we ended up having to remove those walls. So
It was very warm.
yeah, it was very, very hot.
So that would have been way too hot if we left the clear walls on.
Yeah, well, imagine like a marquee with clear plastic enclosure around it, and on I think it was like a 30-degree day.
It was
And-
cooler by the time we did the dinner though.
Yeah, it still would have been too hot. Like 20 people in and the marquee turned out to be a lot smaller than we thought. So we weren't able to do the exact arrangement that we wanted, and that's why
we did 2 tables.
Yeah.
Like 2 tables making like a long table.
Well, we wanted to do 3.
Yeah, we were going to do 3, but I think
should have been too long anyway.
it would have like stuck out of the sides.
Yeah, and that's the
A little
reason why we couldn't fit the dessert table that we brought all the way there. We didn't end up using it because there was just no space. And the table that we were going to use for the cake table turned out to be like massive. It was like a boat. And we managed to fit everything on there. So that day was pretty much just having the vendors drop off stuff, and then we started doing little things to minimize the amount of work the next day,
Mhm.
which still turned out that we didn't actually do much.
there wasn't a lot we could do in terms of the dinner because we couldn't set up too early, like all the decorations. Like we couldn't really do that the day before because it would have just been sitting out there all night.
That's the problem with outdoor weddings, and like you don't consider these things. Maybe we should have considered these things, but we didn't. Was like you can't set up the day before because, especially in an area like that where there's a lot of insects, a lot of morning dew. If you leave out fabrics and stuff that can get damaged, you just can't do it. So you have to do it on the day. And if it's your wedding day, like it was ours, we were obviously very preoccupied with other stuff like the videographers, photographers, getting ready ourselves and doing all that stuff. So it ended up being a big challenge. Was like, we got to the wedding morning and we set up the ceremony, the arbor and the chairs, and I think that was good. We got that done in pretty good time. But then
we got up pretty early. Oh, but we didn't mention that we did a barbecue the night before.
Oh yeah.
So on the Friday, once we'd done like as much setting up as we could, we started cooking the barbecue. But people like arrived at different times basically. So it was pretty late. Like by the time we finished it.
To organize an event with people, like we didn't have many people at all. Like 20, only 15 were coming to the barbecue. But even with that number, it was like so difficult to get everyone to come at the same time as we started cooking. So it was very stagnated. We started cooking when the first set of guests arrived and we stopped. And then another set of guests arrived and started again. And my family came like super late, at like 9 or something. And then we had to cook again. So it's like trying to organize these events, like in our mind, we were like, okay, we're going to get there at 5 and then we're going to start cooking around 5:30. Everyone's going to rock up at 6 and we're going to all eat together and then be done by 8 or whatever. It just never works out that way. Like the amount of things that we didn't foresee, because like people don't behave or act in the way that you think they will. Like you don't, we assume that if we give people a time that they'll be there, but most of the time, some people won't come on time, or they'll come late, or they'll come early. So it was a very big logistical challenge for us, and it ended up taking the whole day, really, the barbecue. So we did that, which was another thing that we didn't have to do. Like we could have just not done it to avoid the stress the night before. But we just, in our minds, it was like, okay, well, this is just a small barbecue. Like we really thought it was like a small barbecue and it was only going to take a few hours.
Yeah.
We should have known that you can't rely on people to come at the time you say, and that it was going to turn into a much, much longer event than we thought. So I guess that's something for us to learn for the next, if we ever end up doing another event at this, probably never at this scale again, but something like that, is to expect people to not all come at the same time. But yeah, we had that barbecue, which we spent a lot on as well, just to get the food. Like we tried to save time in preparation for the food, and we bought pre-marinated meats and sides and everything, which was expensive, and it turned out the portion sizes were quite small. But we did organize all of that, so that was already there. All we had to do was turn on the barbecue, which in itself we couldn't figure out. We had to ask them. We've never done a barbecue, and then they helped us. The owners of the estate helped us turn it on, and it was just a matter of us cooking the meat, putting out the sides and everything, and we kind of struggled our way through that. And that was like the night before the wedding, and then the wedding day, we got up pretty early. I think around
7 or 8.
7. I think we were meant to get up at 7, but we ended up sleeping in till 8.
We didn't sleep in that much.
We slept in a fair bit, and then 8 we got up, and the idea was that we would try and get as much as we could done. Like I had until I think 11:30 that I had to start my prep with the videographer. So we had like around 3.5 hours, and the idea was to try and get as much done as we could before the ceremony. So then we didn't have to do much between the ceremony and the dinner. Of course, it didn't turn out that way. But do you want to talk about like what we did when we woke up?
So we set up the ceremony. So the arbor, basically it took a while just to figure out where exactly to put the arbor that would look the best in terms of the backdrop. We wanted to have it in front of the vineyards and with the mountains in the background. And then not too close to any ugly things. Like there was some cement nearby that looked bad, that we wanted to keep it away from. So we did that. We put the arbor there, just moved it around a bit, and then found the best spot. And then we set up the chairs, which was like 3 rows of 3 chairs on each side, so 9 and 9, and then a runner down the middle. And then we had tied flowers to the chairs the day before, but then it turned out that we had put half of them on the wrong side because it was meant to be along the like inside row, like the middle chairs that are closest to the aisle. But then I'd put half of the chairs on the wrong side, so I had to swap them. And then after that, what did we do?
We basically set up the ceremony, then
We started setting up the reception.
we did a little bit. We
don't
just
remember
tried
what
to
we did.
move everything that was meant to
We
be for the
moved-
reception. We
Yeah,
tried to
like
move
the
everything.
lantern stand and the lanterns that were along the pathway, like up to the marquee.
Yeah.
Um,
The goal was like to try and, because we had a lot of stuff for the different events. So
Decorations.
even the actual day we had the ceremony, then we had grazing platters in between, and then we had the dinner. So we were trying to keep everything organized in terms of the stuff that we had to put out. So we were trying to put it in the areas that it belonged in.
mhm.
So I remember we moved all the grazing platter stuff to my parents' villa because they were setting up the platters,
Mhm.
and then we tried to move everything for the dinner into the marquee.
Mhm.
But that morning we also, I think you guys removed the clear walls.
Yeah. We removed the clear walls, folded them up, put them back in the tub, and then we were trying to set up like the decorations for the dessert table and also the main table. And then it was somehow already like 11.
Yeah, it got
or
to 11.
11:30.
It was like, the things that you don't think will take a lot of time ended up taking quite a bit of time. Like there was like a lot of little things. Like I remember with the lantern stand, we had to peg in the pegs, we had to hammer in the pegs so that it stayed on the ground and didn't fall over. And that took like 10-15 minutes. And then
You were also putting in the insect repellent.
the insect repellents, those took 15-20 minutes to set up. Every little thing just really added up, and this is stuff that you would never think about when it comes to a wedding. And our guests definitely didn't think about, how much effort went into every little thing. So it was just insane. And then you had to put out the name tags and do the seating chart, which we ended up having
The
to
charger
change.
plates. Yeah. So the original idea was to have us in the middle of the long table, like the middle of the long side.
Yeah,
But then
well,
we ended up being at the head of the table, like
yeah,
along the short edge.
well, because we shortened the tables, we did have a seating chart, but because we shortened the tables, everything kind of went out of whack. And I think you redid the seating chart and put out the name tags, which probably took another 10-20 minutes or whatever. And then it was a matter of, I guess, for us trying to wrap things up as quickly as we can so that we can start getting ready and doing the videos and photos. And the photographers, you had a call from them around that time.
I had a call from them. Also, the florist arrived to do the flowers for the arbor and give me the bouquet and stuff. And just after that, like I remember she was setting up. I think we were trying to do a rehearsal with the kids around that time. But anyway, I got a call. I got a message on my phone, and I wasn't really looking at my phone that much that day, but I didn't see it earlier. But it was like, it's from the photographer's like, Alex, what is your mobile number? It's urgent. And then I was like, I quickly told them, and then she called me, and then she was like, I'm really sorry, but I was like so scared because I thought, they weren't going to come at all. But she said they were running late because they left a bag of equipment at home, and then they were already like basically at the Hunter, and then they had to go back to Sydney, then come back again. So,
That was pretty shocking, I think, because when I heard about it, like I couldn't hear what she was saying, I could hear you. And
mhm.
it really sounded like they weren't coming. Like something happened and they weren't coming.
No, but I said like, also you're gonna be this late.
Yeah, later on, but initially it really sounded like they weren't coming. And
Oh yeah,
then they did come. I think they were only ended up being a couple of hours late because initially afterwards found out that they actually came early. Like they tried to come a bit earlier than their start time. So
yeah.
that's
But
why,
then they realized.
yeah, they saved a bit of time and they still got there before the ceremony, which was the most important thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But you also were able to do your prep shots because they got there
Just at the
just in
time.
time.
Yeah. Like my makeup was done at that point. But I'm skipping ahead because you basically it was around 11:30. We had gotten the call already, and that had happened. The florist was done, but it was around the time that you were the videographer came, and the photographers are meant to also be there, but they weren't there until later.
Yeah, well, I was meant to do my prep 11:30, and then I showered, and as soon as I came out, the videographer was there. And then I've never done a prep video shoot before, obviously, so I was kind of like, well, what do you need from me? And he was like, well, it's up to you, kind of thing. And then I was like, I have no idea. Like, I wasn't even that keen on doing the prep because it just seems cheesy and like fake to me. But he kind of suggested that because he kind of suggested I just hang out for a bit and then we'll wait and then I'll come and see him again. And I was like, okay, well, I'll just get dressed. And I put on my whole suit. I got fully dressed, like down to my shoes. And then I came out again. He was kind of shocked. He was like, why are you dressed completely? I just meant like you can put on your pants kind of thing. And then like we'll do prep shots as you put on the rest of your suit. And I was like, I was completely dressed. And he's like, maybe, he suggests that we go back to the villa, and then I take off the jacket and the vest, and then we redo the prep kind of thing with my friends. And then we redid that, which again seems super fake to me, and it just was really unnatural and weird because like I had to at one point he took me into the bathroom and he was like, "Can you just look into the mirror and like adjust yourself?"
Oh yeah.
And I was just like, okay, well, what do you mean? Like, he's like, oh, just like, I'm going to fix your tie and fix your cufflinks and stuff like that. And I'll just do some prep shots in the mirror. And that took like, it was like probably 2 minutes, but it felt like 20 minutes. I was just standing there going like this and then going like this. And then I'm like, I don't know what to do next. Like, there's only two things. And I kept repeating those. And I was like thinking I'm coming across as an idiot. So maybe I'll like try something different. And I started fixing my hair. And it was just like, it was so awkward. But we got through it. And then every scene that we did was just like super awkward because then we went outside and then he's like to my friend Danny, he's like, oh, can you just redo his cufflinks? Which worked out well because actually I didn't do them properly the first time. Like they're meant to go around and my sleeves were like super long. I didn't do it properly.
Like you didn't fold them back properly?
Yeah, I just put them in like a button. Basically, I did that, and it was like super long. But what you're meant to do is like fold it over and then put it in. So he did that, and then he was kind of just like adjusting my tie, and he made me like undo my tie, make it look messy, and then he was fixing it up. And then yeah, we did like some drink shots, non-alcoholic, of course, but like just drinks. We had soft drinks, and yeah, we like it was probably like half an hour at most, but it just felt like it went on forever. And then I was so happy when he was like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna go do your prep now." And then yeah, he left into your room, and then I was pretty much done with my side, and it was like the best feeling at that point. Even though like there was so much more still to come, that was like way more awkward. But at that point, I was just happy to get it done. What was your prep like
But what did you do after that? Because I was wondering what you were doing while I was doing prep.
with the videos?
No, like after he was done.
He just came to you afterwards.
No, but what were you doing after that?
Oh, I was just hanging out.
Oh.
I was like, because I saw, well, we didn't mention that my brother was the one who was actually setting everything up, and like literally like 99% of the things to do with the dinner were done by him. Like he set up the whole table, he set up the whole dessert table, all the lanterns, the LED lights, even like the middle of the table where we had the gold box lanterns. Everything it was just an insane amount of work, and we wouldn't have been able to do most of that without him.
Mm.
So I think that was like something we're really grateful for that he did, because I think it was on us because we didn't recognize how much work was involved.
Yeah.
And it was
We
like,
should have just hired someone to do that role because it was
Yeah.
like a complete, like it took up his whole day basically.
and it wasn't fair
Non-stop.
because as a guest, you shouldn't have to do that. You should
Yeah.
just be able to come and enjoy the wedding. It was like fine that we were doing it because we expected to do it, but for a guest to do that was pretty unfair. But I think that's some useful advice that we can give you is if you're planning an outdoor wedding, don't think that you can do everything yourself, because when it comes down to the day, it definitely helps to have help from a professional, because they'll really take a lot off your plate. And there's a lot of things that you just won't get time to do. So it's better to actually have someone designated to do that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, after I did my prep, I kind of just went up to the marquee to help with stuff, but he didn't really need my help. Like, he was already like pretty much set up, and the stuff that he was doing was like, making it look nice, which I can't really help with.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was kind of just hanging out, walking back and forth from there. And then I just started setting up the grazing platters and bringing out the drinks and stuff. And that's another thing, is like we ended up having to buy a lot of drinks. And we had like these silver tubs that we were going to put in ice and then put the drinks in, which ultimately no one ended up drinking, but
I know, we have so many
we
left.
like all over the kitchen now is like drinks. But yeah, I was just bringing out ice and stuff and getting ready for that. It was like there was always stuff to do. Like I could never just sit down and relax in between. And it was really hot outside that day. Like during the afternoon, it was just like, it was probably not like in terms of temperature, I think it was only like 29 or 30 or something, which is still pretty hot, but it was just the humidity was like really, really bad.
Yeah, the sun was like really bright, especially in the morning, because like I had fully tanned.
Yeah, it felt like it was
like
closer.
that morning.
I think maybe it was because we were higher, but it felt like the sun was like right next to our face. But anyway, so
My prep.
your prep.
So I remember I was doing like the leaves for the main table, and then I realized it was already like 11:45, something like that, and my makeup artist was coming at 12, and I saw someone coming up towards me like wearing all black, and I was like, that must be her. So I like ran up to her, and she was like, you don't need to run. And I was like, I'm running late. But I asked her if I could like quickly shower, because I was like pretty sweaty at that point because it was so hot out there. And she was like, yeah, I'm just going to get my stuff from the car and like start setting up, or I'll just like hang out in the car and then you can let me in at like 12, like when you're done. So I had to quickly shower, let her in, and then she was doing my makeup. She did my hair first, I think. Then she did my makeup, and then it took until about 1:30. Yeah, around 1:30. And the videographer had come. What time did he come? 12:30? 12:30ish, yeah. So he was there for like some of the prep, and he just got some shots of like the makeup, like putting the makeup on. And then my mom was like, I think she went to have lunch with my auntie, and then she came back, and then they did like the first look with the parents, and that was super awkward.
Because your parents are emotionless.
Yeah, no, my mom was just like smiling.
Oh, was this like an actual?
But it was like a
Was this an actual
fake
first
smile.
look? Like, was this an actual first look?
Yeah,
where
like
she,
they hadn't seen me.
Like
in
she
the
was
dress.
in a room, or she came into your room?
She came in to my room.
Okay.
But she wasn't there before. Like that was the first time she saw me.
So she didn't say anything. She was just like smiling.
She didn't say anything. No, she just smiled. But she could see she was being filmed, so she was like smiling at the camera, and it was just.
She looked at the camera and just smiled.
Yeah, she was looking at the camera the whole time.
I think they should have been more
It was, like,
specific with older
awkward.
people. Was like, don't look at camera. Like,
Yeah, like make it candid.
not even make it. Just pretend like just tell
be
them
natural.
don't look at the camera. I don't think you need to tell them candid because they won't understand. But
Yeah.
just tell them don't look at the camera.
And then my dad was just super awkward as well, and just like staring at the ground. I don't know if he knew he was like being filmed, but he was not giving the reaction or any emotion. So that was the first look. And then my friend Sam was there as well. So she was doing They got some shots of her like doing the buttons up at the back of my dress, which took a really long time because she had these like gems on her nails. So she was like having trouble with the elastic of the loopy elastic things to put over the buttons.
Yeah.
So that took a while. And then she was also helping put on my necklace. And they got shots of me like putting on my bangles and some detailed shots of my jewelry and stuff on the bed. I think that was about it. And then the photographers came. The makeup artist was still around, and then she was like, oh, I'll stay longer to like do some more shots for the photographers. So she was like really nice about, she wasn't like rushing to leave or anything.
Maybe she
really
just
nice.
wanted the photos for herself too, though.
Maybe. No, but I don't think she didn't know she was going to be in the shots because she was like, I'll stand over here. And then they were like, oh, no, it's fine. But yeah, so she was doing like just brushing me, like pretending to do makeup again. And then the photographers did the same kind of shots we'd already done, but because they weren't there earlier. And then the videographer also did photos of my dress before I put it on like outside. Like he brought it outside. I don't know what he did with it.
Yeah, I saw him. Like I saw him just filming the dress. He hung it up on
He
like
hung it
the
up.
porch, and he
Oh,
was he was doing close-up shots or something. He was kind of annoyed that I saw it because he was like, "Oh, you're not meant to see the wedding dress." I'm like, "I already saw it. I saw you buying it. I saw you when it came. Like when it got delivered.
You're
I
not
saw it.
supposed to see it at all. Like
I didn't.
not even just on the
There's so many
hanger.
rules of like, yeah, there's so many rules to do with weddings like that I don't know about. So it always feels like you're walking on eggshells to do with anything to do with weddings. Even like the fashion sense, like I don't usually wear suits, but the amount of rules that come into play when you're wearing a suit, like I think sleeves have to be sticking out a little bit. If you're
It
wearing,
looks better that way.
if you got
though.
a vest, then you don't do up the last button, which no normal person would ever know. Yeah, just little things like that is just like new to me. But yeah, I think once we did your prep, we did our first look, which was
Oh yeah. I was just waiting for that because they were kind of like dragging on the makeup sort of shots, and I was just like, it's past the time because I know the timing we were meant to do it at like 12:30.
I meant to do it at 2:30.
1:30, and then 2 to 3 was meant to be like location shots or whatever.
Yeah, but anyway, he told me that we were ready, and then we went out into the vineyards. And he kind of just said walk 10 meters into the vineyards, and then I stood there, and the videographer and one of the photographers came in front of me and were like, that was really awkward for me because like I don't like.
So they were in front of you.
Yeah, like I don't like being in camera as it is, and then me being like the center of attention because the idea was to capture my reaction. So
no, but wouldn't that have been if you turned around, right? Wouldn't they have been needed to be behind me?
No, they were in front of me. We had two photographers, so the other one was behind. They were covering both angles.
Oh, okay.
The videographer he basically wanted me to talk to him while I was waiting, and that usually they get shots of like the groom kind of saying how they feel, and as they're waiting, they kind of have shots of them just standing there being nervous, basically.
What would you be nervous about?
Well, it's nervous because you're like, I don't know, maybe you're excited or you're nervous. I was more nervous because I was on camera, not so much I was nervous to see you because I had already seen you like a couple of hours before that. But I guess I was excited to see how your overall look came out. Anyway, I found that awkward, and then it took like another 5 minutes of me just standing there looking out into the vineyards.
Wait, did I take too long to come out?
Well, I couldn't see, so I couldn't tell if like how far away you are from me. And then he was kind of giving me points. He's like, "Oh, she's not even close." Like, cause like I heard footsteps at one point. And then they kept getting closer, and I was like, "Oh, it's you." And
it was just a photographer.
And they just walked past me.
So were you tempted to like turn around?
No, he said I wasn't meant to until you tapped my shoulder.
Yeah, I know, but
no, I wasn't. I thought it was too quick. I was like, how are you moving that fast? Like in a dress and like heels and stuff. And then when you finally came, um, I don't remember how that went down. I don't remember much. I cried a bit. And then we just looked at each other, and then I think we were
I
talking
hugged
about
you.
something else. We started talking about like more logistical issues with the wedding.
Oh, I can't even remember. I remember like the first few seconds after, but I don't know what we talked about
I
after
think
that.
we were probably the worst subjects to film because we were just so preoccupied with
100 other
everything. It was like
things
we couldn't.
and problems.
It really felt
Oh,
like
and we forgot to mention, like, while I was getting my hair done or makeup done or whatever, I was looking outside and could see the arbor was like a really strong gust of wind, and the arbor was like, tilting a
swaying.
bit, swaying, yeah. And then it actually fell over, like after the flowers were on it, and it looked beautiful and perfect, and the flowers had fallen off. And I saw the videographer went running, like I saw him running outside.
Everything fell over. The
And
peacock
the
chairs
chair.
to the side fell over.
Mm-hmm.
The arbor completely tipped over. The flower arrangements broke. It was just a complete disaster. And that was I think it was very unlucky because that gust of wind was like, it really felt like a tornado for a second because I was standing inside, and the screen door was closed, but like the glass door was open, and this like everything on the dining table just flew away, and I knew this was like abnormal. Like sometimes it's windy, but there was like this really strong gust, and everything just flew away. I think we were really unlucky because that was the only time it happened during the day, the only time it happened during the whole trip, and it was right after the arbor got set up.
I
So it's
know.
like,
And we didn't even think to put the sandbags down because we were like, I mean, it wasn't like a windy day. It was
it
like super
wasn't.
hot, and it was like,
And then it
we didn't
wasn't
even,
windy after that either.
yeah, it was so weird
It was
and
like
annoying.
bad luck. But that fell over, and that was like chaotic because a couple of the flower arrangements came off the arbor, and then the florist had already left. Luckily, my brother had florist tape for some reason in his car, and we managed, not tape, string.
Yeah.
We managed to fix it. Right, this was like 10, 15, no, not 10, but 20, 30 minutes before the ceremony was meant to start. So that was another thing that happened. And also, we didn't realize that gust of wind blew away a lot of the name tags and the marquee
Mm-hmm.
and the menus that we had already put out.
Mm-hmm.
I realized that when I went up because Sam, like, she went up there at some point and she came back and she was like, the wind fucked everything up. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, just have a look. And I was like kind of freaking out because she was like pretty serious. I thought she was joking, but then she was serious.
Mm.
I was like, what, did it like break the marquee or something? And I went there and like everything was out of place. Like we had arranged a table pretty much almost, it was pretty much done. And when I went there, everything was blown around, and I had to like look around for the name tags and the menus. And that's when I realized we lost one, and I couldn't find it. And I kind of just gave up. And which ultimately someone ended up finding, which
It's a mystery.
still don't know.
We don't know who found the name tag or how it got placed back there.
Yeah,
But it was.
like right before the dinner started, it was there.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the same person that created that gust of wind, the ghost.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we did that first look, and then another issue came because one of the readers, your cousin, was late.
Well, the celebrant turned up around that point, around 2:30, and then everyone was pretty much ready to go, but we were just like waiting around.
Yeah, and she was late by 20. We were told it was going to be 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I still don't know how.
It was already 3:00 at that point, so we were meant to start, but then we were waiting for about 20 minutes.
That was stressful because everything that we did up until that point was to get everything, to get the ceremony started at 3, and we thought it was really strict because the celebrant had told us that 3 to 3:30 was the time that she had given us. And we obviously wanted to do it on time. Everyone else came on time, so I guess that's I don't know if that's something you should plan for. People should be on time. Like people, especially for something as important as a wedding ceremony, you shouldn't be that late. So that was kind of annoying, but the celebrant was nice about it. She waited. We started at 3:30, I think, ultimately. We had issues with the ceremony as well because then the music kept cutting out.
Yeah, I remember I was just walking up and I could hear the music was like just dropping out. Like I couldn't hear anything sometimes, and I'm like, where did it go?
No, what happened was that the the music started when the flower girl and the ring bearer came, and it was fine up until then. And then as soon as you started your walk, you got like halfway, and then the music stopped, and then it was just this awkward silence for like probably 20 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And then luckily, as soon as you got to like around the aisle, it started up again. And then
I remember I was just like, I don't even think I was looking at you at that point, like when I was walking down the aisle, because I was just trying not to like trip over,
there's
like on
flowers
the grass.
everywhere.
Yeah.
But
But were you looking at me? I forgot to look at your face.
yeah, I was looking at you.
And what was your face like?
I don't know. I can't see my face.
Oh.
I'm sure the videographer got it because he was behind you.
Oh yeah, true. Oh yeah.
I was kind of just laughing because when the flower girl came, they
How did
just
she throw the flowers?
they just looked so awkward, and then she was like so scared. I kind of felt bad. She was so scared, and then
Oh.
she's I thought she was just gonna walk through and not throw the flowers, but
Yeah.
she did. She was like very little amount. I don't
Did
think
she
used
throw them in a
much.
funny way, like really high?
No, she was like barely moving her hand. She was like like very slight movements.
Uh-huh.
But it was cute. Like it was. They actually got lost on the way, which was like funny because my brother had to keep guiding them to the aisle.
Yeah, I could see.
They were like, they started to walk around the front of the thing. I'm like, no, go back around. Anyway, the ceremony, apart from that, went according to plan. That was all good. And then afterwards, we kind of just hung out. We were meant to do group photos and stuff, but the sun was just like crazy. We tried doing some photos, but it was kind of unbearable.
Yeah.
And we just decided
so
to wait.
Hot.
We just waited.
And
maybe,
too bright.
Yeah.
Sunny.
But it was kind of scattered, like throughout the day. Once the clouds were in, we tried doing some shots, and then the sun came out, we'd stop, and it was kind of stop-start, and then we did our couple shoot just before sunset. So that was like a whole hour and a half that we were just doing photos. At one point, we were trying to get the kangaroos in the shots because on that estate, there's a lot of kangaroos that come out around dusk. And they're all around us. There was so many of them, but they just refused to come in to the frame. So we did that, and then we did the dinner. We went up to the marquee, and I think that went pretty much according to plan. We had issues with some catering services, but that's another story. The rest of the night went according to plan. It was really nice, especially around sunset, and we had great weather the whole day. It was hot, but it was way better than it was forecasted to be, which was all rain. We didn't have to use our 20 umbrellas, which we lugged all the way there. But the day was great. Like the weather, the sunset, it was like there was no clouds. It just looked really bright, and we got some. I don't know. I'm assuming we got some really good shots.
Yeah.
And then the dinner, really liked the food. At least most people did. And it was a good night. It was very relaxed. I think we were stressing because we were going to do a speech, and it wasn't really even a speech. We said 2 sentences, if that.
Yeah, I just remember feeling super awkward.
Yeah, well, because like
I was like, no one is enjoying this. I was talking.
No one wanted to do a speech because we had a couple of our friends had asked to do speeches, and they kind of were like wanting the other person to go first, and it took us a while just to get the speeches started. And then it was our turn, and then I think we were both really awkward and like not entertaining.
Well, we weren't trying to be though. Like ours weren't funny or entertaining or anything.
Yeah, I think the delivery was pretty bad. Like we didn't practice at all. We practiced on the drive there.
Practiced on the way there,
which was maybe like 20 minutes that we did that for, and then we forgot about it until that moment, and then we were kind of reading it on your phone just before we said it, and then I was like, there's no way I'm going to remember any of this. I'll just wing it. And it was just a stutter fest of like just trying to get words out.
I just don't want to think about that. It's just so awkward. But anyway,
it'll be on video.
Yeah, we'll see.
So I think that covers the whole day of the wedding. We actually afterwards, this is something that I guess we never thought about, but we had to pack everything down, and that's not something you usually do on your wedding days. Like you got changed, and then we came back and we had to like pack everything down, take all the plates, all the cutlery, pack it down the tables, all the decorations and stuff we had to take.
But we had help from our friends.
Everyone was great. Like, everyone helped us out. That took us couple of hours afterwards just to pack everything up. And
But luckily, we finished pretty early. Like we were done by 9.
yeah,
Like the dinner, everyone just sort of left around that point. Like the desserts were brought out, and then people barely touched them and just left.
that was disappointing because we had a dessert platter. And what do they call it? Dessert
Platter.
platter, yeah. And there was a lot of different options and stuff, and we were kind of excited for that, but no one really touched it.
They were nice
And
though.
They were really nice. Anyway, we had a lot of leftovers, and we packed everything up, and we kind of just relaxed the rest of the night. The next morning was also stressful because we had to pack everything
We got up
into the
early
car.
again.
Yeah, we couldn't even sleep in on our wedding
No,
day.
we couldn't sleep in. We
Wedding
were
night,
packing.
I mean.
Yeah, we were packing everything, and luckily we could give a lot of stuff to my parents to bring back.
It was just a lot to do, even on the morning
Cleaning
off.
up as well.
Yeah, because
cleaning the barbecue, cleaning the villas like completely.
yeah, because the
Making
caterers
sure that
left
we
a
didn't leave
bit of a
anything.
mess as well.
Yeah.
To clean everything up, and then the worst part was probably packing up the car, but it wasn't actually as bad as I thought because
It wasn't as full that time.
your parents took a lot of the stuff, and that took us a good 2 to 3 hours to pack up and then to check out. And then after that, we were finally free of like this whole event, and that was a good feeling. Like once we packed up the car and checked out, and then we were able to relax a bit that day. Then we headed off onto a mini honeymoon to Port Stephens, which was the weather wasn't great that day. It was kind of rainy, but
it wasn't bad.
The rest of the trip was good. The weather was pretty good.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it was a lot better than we thought.
We had a nice Airbnb in Port Stephens.
On the beach.
Yeah, went with my sister's family. And we really didn't intend to do anything. We didn't even intend to leave the Airbnb. We were kind of just planning to chill there by the beach for 2 days, which we did pretty much. We didn't really go out. We ordered in. No, we didn't order in. We went out one day, and then we ordered in one night. Hung out at the beach. It was just pretty relaxing. And then that was it. We stayed there on Sunday night, Monday night, and then came back on Tuesday afternoon, and straight back into work mode. And now it's the weekend, so.
But we had a ton of stuff like in our house when we got back, like all the boxes that we had to pack away again, and
yeah, we were kind of neglecting that a bit, and then
we left that for a few days. But then this weekend we basically cleaned our whole section, a portion of the house.
Yeah,
which felt good.
We finally, I think, got rid of all the remnants of that whole event. Well, I'll call it the event. It was our wedding, but I mean, like when I say event, like we had so many mini events that weren't the wedding, and that's primarily a lot of our stuff was to do with all those events. So we finally packed everything up and found a place for it, and now
we were able to rub out our board, our whiteboard of like all the stuff we had to think about and tick off. It was finally over.
That was a good feeling. That board was like covered from corner to corner.
For like the last month or two.
Yeah. And we added up all the costs of how much everything cost, and that was kind of a shock to us.
We knew it would be around that.
It was a shock. It was definitely way more than we initially thought.
Yeah.
But I think we'll make a separate video for that in terms of how much we spent and where we spent it, and I guess we can offer up advice on how you should budget better for it, which obviously we weren't very good at budgeting. We didn't
do a budget.
But the good thing is that because we didn't and we overspent on pretty much everything, we can give good advice on how you should actually budget, because we realized from making those mistakes that you should actually set budgets for everything. But that's going to be another video. That's pretty much it. That was the lead up to the wedding, and then the small honeymoon in Port Stephens. Is there anything else you want to add?
And we also got our marriage certificate,
which
like
is
a few days after we got back.
Oh, the other one.
Yeah, snail egg.
We had a marriage certificate that we left on the porch.
Oh my gosh, we left it outside, and then I went to grab it that night. And there was a snail on it, And then when I pulled the snail off, it had like latched on. It was like a leech, and it had like eaten the paper, like the envelope.
I didn't know snails ate paper.
I didn't know either.
But
I thought it would
luckily,
just be like a bit wet, but ew, like it actually ate the paper.
luckily it didn't eat the actual certificate.
No, it didn't go through to the certificate. But yeah, it's official and we're going to be together forever.
Contractually
Yeah.
obligated now.
Yeah, we're legally bound.
Lots of legal ramifications now.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's the story of our wedding / honeymoon / mini events, and it was.
That's not our actual honeymoon.
No, it's not. Like that
was like 2 days. I'm going to need more than that.
How long do you need?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
At least.
Well,
I'll take a month. Off work.
I would take any international trip at this point as a honeymoon. It doesn't even matter where.
At any time.
No, I mean, like, I don't even have a preference anymore as long as it's international.
Mm-hmm.
Because before, obviously, I wanted to go to Switzerland, but now it's like I would take any international trip because I'm sick of traveling within New South Wales. I feel like we've seen everything.
Lame. Yeah.
So that's the story. And in the next episode, we'll jump into the wedding expenses and explore the horrors of how much we actually ended up spending overall.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for listening to this episode. And if you're enjoying the series, please leave us a review on Google Podcasts. We really appreciate it. And we'll catch you in the next episode.
Bye.